Welcome to your Houston Rewind for the last week of August. I'm KHU11 digital anchor Brandy Smith. We know catching up on the news can be a little overwhelming, especially in a city like Houston where it just doesn't stop. So every weekend, we're taking this opportunity to fill you in on some of the stories you may have missed. Let's rewind. Monday, we got some alarming numbers out of Montgomery County. The coroner there says there's been a 271% jump in fentanyl overdose deaths since 2019. Anayeli Ruiz shared a warning: one pill can kill.
I see this way too often.
Justice of the Peace Judge Wayne Mack tells us fentanyl overdoses increasing in Montgomery County is alarming.
And to have a 271% increase since 2019. And
he's speaking not just to raise awareness, but because this is personal for him.
My brother-in-law died of a drug overdose.
Montgomery County is not alone. According to the CDC website, the overdose deaths in the entire country is led by fentanyl. DEA agents agree it's up across the board. But why such an uptick? They say fentanyl is cheap to make.
There's an uptick in production by Mexican cartels.
And here's a problem. People may think they're buying Xanax or Adderall, but instead you could be getting a fake. Side by side, you can't even tell the difference.
Top one is a real one, bottom was a fake one.
And the potency could kill you.
Clandestine labs in Mexico are producing these pills at massive amounts. So there's no quality control, there's no chemists. It's just people producing as many pills as they can.
And once they're in the U.S., they're easy to purchase.
Social media platforms, you could also get them through there easily. They've gotten to a point that they use emojis to order pills.
DEA agents say preventing these overdoses is a priority for the agency. For parents, they say you need to talk about this with your kids and stress they shouldn't take a pill or candy from anyone because new fentanyl-laced drugs look like candy. A prominent Houston pastor got hit with backlash Monday after a weekend sermon. Dr. Ed Young of Houston's Second Baptist called the bail bond issue in Harris County a possible result of, quote, left-wing progressives in office. Janelle Bludau explained why local Democrats cried foul.
Houston pastor Dr. Ed Young.
Houston, in all probability, right now is the most dangerous city in America to live in.
Focusing a new sermon series on what he is calling the Church Awake, described on the Second Baptist website as a way to learn how a church awake to the biblical truth can overcome a woke culture.
You see any difference when you put left-wing progressives in office?
Dr. Young reads off a list of numbers which he says details rising crime in Houston and Harris County, and his solution:
if Houston and Harris County is to survive, we had better throw those bums out of office. They are not doing their job that we have called them to.
But some, like Otis Evagaro with the Harris County Democratic Party, say this sermon crosses the line politically.
Vote these bums out and talking about the left-wing progressive, I mean, that's already crossing the line because the opposite of that is voting for Republicans.
The reason it could be an issue is that as a church, Second Baptist and Dr. Young have to follow certain rules to maintain their tax-exempt status. Under those rules, the IRS says organizations are absolutely prohibited from directly or indirectly participating in or intervening in any political campaign on behalf of or in opposition to any candidate for elective public office.
And the organization may not intervene in political campaigns. That's exactly what he did when he's telling folks to vote for one particular side.
But Dr. Young has been in political hot water before. Back in 2018, he called Democrats, quote, some kind of religion that is basically godless during an impromptu speech at an election watch party. KHU political analyst Bob Stein says he's not sure Dr. Young said enough Sunday to have that tax-exempt status stripped.
He is clearly coming very close. Ed Young is a well-known and, how should I say, experienced member of the clergy, and he knows exactly what he's doing.
But says a complaint can still be filed with the IRS. One of the options Evagaro says they are looking at.
In the clear presence of being in church in front of his congregation, this is a clear violation of the church tax guide from the IRS.
After that story aired, Mayor Turner responded, tweeting, quote, Houston is not the most dangerous city in America. That is factually not true. true, and people should not be saying it to gain some political benefit. Facts from the pulpit should still matter.
Why are you saying something that's not true? What are you trying to gain a political advantage? And so if you're going to be a politician, then people are going to respond to you like a politician.
KHU 11 reached out to Dr. Young and Second Baptist Church, but they declined to comment. Also a note, Second Baptist Church services air on KHU 11 Sunday mornings. It's paid programming. Paid programs are not endorsed by KHU 11. This week, the last surviving battleship to serve in both World Wars moved from its home of 70 years. The Battleship Texas shipped out for repairs, but before it did, Xavier Walton did a deep dive on the ship's history.
Bruce Bramlett,
you know, I can only speak for me,
is a history buff.
I've always had a love of history.
He's the Battleship Texas tour guide, taking us back in time.
The Battleship Texas is one of the most iconic things sitting inside our state.
World War I was over for the Texas.
Nationally and even internationally.
And the Texas escorted the captured German fleet into port eventually.
You're talking about the only surviving U.S. battleship, the only ship that served in both World War I and II.
Among being one of the baddest battleships known to man since launching in 1912, the Texas found a niche in naval aviation history. In 1919, she became the first American battleship to launch an aircraft and served as a plane guard.
And you're looking again at a piece of history that was in nearly every major battle of World War II. So if she could talk and you'd go, tell me the stories about being at North Africa, or Cherbourg, or D-Day, or Okinawa, or Iwo Jima.
But the crises in Asia and Europe saved the Texas from the scrap heap.
She was scheduled for retirement in 1938, but ended up being fitted out instead with the first experimental radar.
The crew without this ship is a bunch of guys in the water looking for a life jacket. And I've heard these men, and they share the memories, the stories about their time on this ship. I can't imagine not saving it.
The Battleship Texas, still fighting to stay afloat some 110 years after it first went out to sea.
We don't have to relearn lessons, and we don't have to forget our heroes and our icons of history, and certainly the Battleship Texas is one of them.
In Houston, Xavier Walton, KHOU 11 News.
More on that move in a minute, but you can see a whole lot more on KHOU.com. Tuesday, the state health department confirmed the first death of a person with a presumptive case of monkeypox. The adult patient, who is not being identified, also had several other serious illnesses, and the exact cause of death will be determined in a few weeks. The number of monkeypox cases in the Houston region is on the rise, but a little context. Out of 5 million people here, there are 661 confirmed cases. Now, 2 of those are in local schools. Adam Bennett showed us what health departments are doing to keep those cases contained.
In both cases, one here in Harris County, the other in Fort Bend County, school officials tell me they are working with health officials to contact trace. They want to identify anybody who may have been exposed and give them the right steps on what to do next. Let's start in North Houston. A monkeypox case was recently reported at Idea Public School's Hardy campus. School officials are not saying whether it was a student or a staff member to protect their privacy, but a spokesperson told me the infected person is no longer on campus. That official says they're deep cleaning spaces and surfaces throughout the grounds. Staff is also wiping down frequently touched surfaces and making cleaning supplies and hand sanitizer readily available. Down in Missouri City, a Ridgepoint High School student tested positive for monkeypox. It's one of 21 confirmed or probable cases of monkeypox in Fort Bend County.
We have case investigation that takes place. This is for anyone that has had close contact with a case during a time when they may have been able to spread the disease. And we provide them with support and connections as far as services they can receive while that person is isolating.
Williams believes the county has enough vaccine supply to handle its demand of cases. A spokesperson with Fort Bend ISD told me that cleaning and disinfecting is continuing at all district campuses. She told me that they're using disinfectant proven effective by the EPA against monkeypox. Back to you.
For more information about monkeypox or to learn how to make a vaccine appointment, text the word POX to 713-526-1111. We'll send you links back. Someone stole a trailer loaded with thousands of dollars equipment for the Baytown Broncos. The youth football group serves more than 200 young athletes, and now it's left trying to stay afloat after almost everything was stolen. Gerald Harris shared what's being done to find the thieves.
It's not the news the Baytown Broncos were expecting a day before the kickoff to their season.
Tackle dummies, extra helmets, chin straps, shoulder pads, Clorox wipes, ant killer, because we maintain the field out here.
Despite the locked gates and safety locks, someone stole the youth football team's trailer, which housed much of the equipment needed to run their program.
We came Friday evening, organized the trailer, made sure we had everything we needed in there for game days, and we showed up Saturday morning and the trailer was gone. Baytown
police are now searching for a suspect in the missing trailer, which looks identical to this white trailer.
Fold down door in the back, a side door. The wheel covers don't stick out, they're flat.
Despite what happened, the Baytown community is stepping up to help, from businesses offering to give a percentage of sales to the Broncos to fellow youth teams.
Friendswood teams have offered us chin straps and mouthpieces. The Deer Park team offered to let us use their extra trailer until we're able to get one. So we've been blessed with people reaching out.
And the team has a message for the person responsible. Return the items.
You know, you didn't hurt adults. I mean, we're upset and we're angry, but you hurt kids. You took from kids, kids who are dedicated. I mean, they show up here 3 days a week, bright and early for games on Saturdays, and you know, that's who you took things from.
Later in the week, we learned the trailer was found not far from where it had been parked, but the bad news is it was empty. There's some good news. Academy Sports treated the team to a $5,000 shopping spree to replace what was lost.
The Texans on Tuesday cutting their roster to the league max, 53 players. And part of that process, trading Ross Blacklock to the Vikings and getting back a 6th-round pick. Poor Ross, part of one of the worst trades in NFL history. The deal with Arizona for DeAndre Hopkins. And now this 6th-round pick is all Houston has left. David Johnson, gone. Ross Blacklock, who was a 2nd-round pick, gone. These two guys combined started a total of 18 games. That's it. Then you have Arizona. Arizona with DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best receivers in football, 26 starts in 2 seasons, along with a Pro Bowl, though he's now been suspended 6 games for alleged PED use. Then Rashard Lawrence, another defensive lineman, picked 2 rounds after Ross Blacklock. He's made 8 starts, and he should be a starter again this season. So when you look at this deal, engineered by Bill O'Brien, it's still hurting the Texans and will continue to for a very long time.
Wednesday, Battleship Texas docked in its new temporary home after a trip from LaPorte to Galveston. It'll stay in Galveston for at least the next year to undergo repairs. Once those are done, the ship will have to find a new home. Grace White took us along on its 8-hour journey.
It's a pretty historic moment, and I wanted to be a part of that.
Before dawn, she left the San Jacinto Battleground State Historic Site for the first time in more than 3 decades. Battleship Texas making its journey to Galveston. Even a 100-year-old World War II veteran who served aboard came to witness what was his ship in the 1940s.
It used to be a real first-class ship when I was on board it.
And restoring the battleship to its glory is why it's being moved. $35 million slated for the year-long repairs.
To see it actually happening, unbelievable.
From Drone 11, you can see its majesty and entourage. From the U.S. Coast Guard in the water and the fans on shore, there were crowds at every turn of the trip. Bruce Bramlett with the Battleship Texas Foundation says the next big decision, finding her a permanent home.
What location puts the ship in the most favorable position to be financially successful so we never have to go through a period like this again?
On the short list, Galveston, Beaumont, and Baytown. The foundation says they're looking for the location that can attract the most visitors.
You can watch highlights from the trip and read the incredible history of the USS Texas by texting the word SHIP to 713-526-1111. We'll text you back with links to the stories on KHOU.com. When someone is shot, knowing how to stop the bleeding quickly can be the difference between life and death. After the Santa Fe school shooting, Texas school districts were required to have bleeding control stations on every campus and teach staff how to use them. Investigative reporter Cheryl Mercedes found out how many kits are in the Houston area's largest districts and whether teachers are being trained to use them.
Before the first bell of the school year rang in Santa Fe, new teachers and staff were taught a very important lesson.
Okay, the number one cause of preventable death after an injury is bleeding.
Santa Fe ISD Chief Ruben Espinoza teaches new hires how to stop the bleed. It's a course on how to render immediate medical aid to wounded students before trained professionals arrive.
Like in the Uvalde incident, what happened? There's a lot of people that bled out, right?
Every classroom in Santa Fe ISD is equipped with what's known as a lockdown bucket. Chief Espinoza says it includes everything a teacher would need to treat a wounded student.
This is what you're going to find in your Stop the Bleed kit.
The state passed a law in January of 2020 requiring all schools to have bleed control stations and train staff how to use them. KHOU 11 Investigates surveyed the 10 largest school districts in Greater Houston to find out how many kits are on each campus, where they are located, and how often teachers are trained. Turns out the number of kits kept at school varies greatly by district. Houston ISD, the largest school district in the state, has 1,200 kits district-wide. Katy and Clear Creek ISDs store 8 kits at each of its campuses. Fort Bend keeps 2 kits at its high schools, 1 at elementary and middle schools. Conroe has 3 kits at its high schools and middle schools, 2 at its elementary schools. Klein ISD has 120 throughout the district. Cypress Fairbanks has kits in all of its AEDs. The amount depends on the school size. Aldine ISD and Montgomery ISD have at least 1 kit on every campus. Humboldt didn't give us their numbers. Most school districts host training at least once a year as part of their annual district training. They are taught by course-certified school nurses, school resource officers, and/or medical professionals.
See this red tab on here?
In Santa Fe, it's Chief Espinoza's job.
That first pull is the most important pull, okay? You want to get it as tight as you can.
Teachers also learn how to use gauze to pack a wound and stop the bleed.
Sácalo. Okay, con dos manos. Sí.
It's a skill that will go far beyond their classrooms.
Not just from an active shooter situation, but just in general, because anyone can get hurt at any particular time.
It's easy. I just hope I never have to use it.
Districts are also required to offer Stop the Bleed training to students in 7th grade and higher, but they are not required to take it. Most school districts offer it online or as part of a health course. Back to you.
Our Investigates team has done a number of stories about safety and security in schools. You can find them by going to khou.com/investigations. This week marked 17 years since Hurricane Katrina slammed into Louisiana, forever changing the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. Matt Doherty caught up with some of them, including one of the key figures who helped those who lost everything.
For most of us who watch the levees break on television from our living rooms, images from Hurricane Katrina are a familiar slideshow from the distant past. But for the ones who had to fight to survive during and after the storm, they mean something else.
15,000 of these people are inside the Astrodome.
It's estimated that more than 200,000 evacuees came to Houston just before and immediately after the storm. Thousands were first brought to the Astrodome and the George R. Brown Convention Center.
We need a picture from poor boy.
Fast forward to this week, about a 1-minute drive from the Astrodome.
All right, order.
The kitchen at Sleepy's Po' Boys is busy.
I lost everything, so.
The restaurant's owners, Nicole and Renee Washington, were both living in New Orleans when Katrina hit. Eventually, the couple would follow the path of others who decided to start new lives in Houston. They've never looked back. It was a good decision?
Oh, it was an amazing decision.
When the levees broke, what was the closest big city?
Former Houston Mayor Bill White was often the face of the local effort to help the victims of Hurricane Katrina.
How do we treat our neighbors the way we would want to be treated in a similar situation?
Without a similar natural disaster to use as a reference point, White has been credited with helping craft a roadmap for other American cities when they're called upon to be safe harbors.
The FEMA program was to put people in trailers and tents, but I thought people need to get on with their lives. We'll provide an apartment near a transit site, and we expected people to abide by our laws, to get their kids in school, and to seek employment or job training.
White says the plan was ultimately a success. The former mayor says Houston's effort to help the victims was perhaps best articulated by an elderly woman at a church in Sunnyside, who told him this soon after the storm.
The response of the people of Houston, from all walks of life, with all races, taking people into their home, feeding them, volunteering, and I thought, you know, this burden of racism that I thought would be there forever, it's withering away.
In Houston, I'm Matt Doherty, KHOU 11 News.
Houston's mayor announced Thursday that the city will not prioritize resources to go after those seeking or providing abortions. The Texas trigger law makes it a felony to perform or assist with an abortion. Gerald Harris was there for the mayor's announcement.
Good morning to everyone. Today,
Mayor Sylvester Turner is making it clear
the city of Houston will not prioritize utilizing resources to create any record used against those experiencing miscarriages, seeking abortion, or any other pregnancy outcome.
The mayor joined by the Houston Women's Commission and city police committed to not going after those who seek or perform abortions.
Investigations of allegations, charges, or information on pregnancy outcomes will be the lowest priority for the Houston Police Department.
This comes after the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision reversing 50 years of precedent allowing for abortion access. Mayor Turner says he'll be focused on the most violent crimes.
As law enforcement, we support the mayor and council and the citizens of Houston to make sure that we enforce all laws. We will continue to do that as we're duty bound. But obviously there are priorities when you have limited resources.
Turner says he has not considered the possible backlash the city could face with the state or the Attorney General's office, saying he wants women to get the best health care possible and protect providers.
There should be no confusion that HPD is not here to interfere with how you provide medical care to your patients.
In an August 18th letter obtained by KHOU from Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg, she wrote in response to the mayor, if police have deprioritized such investigations in order to focus on violent criminals in Harris County, we applaud that move.
Gerald reached out to Attorney General Ken Paxton's office. When we get a response, we'll add it to this article on KHOU.com. On Thursday, we heard from Chicago's mayor after Governor Greg Abbott sent a bus filled with migrants there. When they arrived Wednesday night, Chicago became the third city targeted by Abbott. Rekha Mudaraj got reaction.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott sent another busload of migrants to another sanctuary city, this time Chicago. 75 people, primarily from Venezuela, arrived Wednesday night after the more than 12-hour trip from Eagle Pass. Chicago's Mayor Lori Lightfoot called Abbott's move racist and inhumane.
With these continued political stunts, Governor Abbott has confirmed what unfortunately many of us had already known, that he is a man without any morals, humanity, or shame.
And now Texas is sharing our pain with the rest of the country.
It's the latest in Abbott's plan to send undocumented immigrants to Democratic-led cities, tweeting, Biden's inaction at our border puts Texans at risk and is overwhelming our communities. Border crossings are at a record high. According to the Texas Division of Emergency Management, the state has spent more than $12 million to bus more than 8,000 migrants from the border to New York and Washington since April. Now, in Chicago, the city, along with organizations like the Salvation Army, is welcoming the people with offers of housing, food, and protection.
And while there's no way that we can fully make up for the cruelty that our new neighbors have experienced, what we have and will continue to do is welcome them with open arms.
Governor Abbott sought out private donations to pay for these trips, but a government fundraiser raised a little more than $118,000. So most of these trips are funded by taxpayer dollars. Thursday, Crime Stoppers launched a new website, a year in the making. It tracks crime data in 6 key categories going back to 2015. Marcelino Benito revealed after several years of a disturbing crime spike, it appears crime is starting to plateau.
At the GlendaGordyResearchCenter.com, you can now get an easy-to-understand look at the reality of crime across Harris County.
Our goal as Crime Stoppers was simply to show exactly the numbers. No narrative, no opinion on it, simply just what is happening in our county.
It breaks down crimes into 6 key categories: homicide, aggravated robbery, aggravated sexual assault, aggravated assault, human trafficking, and felon in possession of a weapon. Crime Stoppers used Harris County Clerk publicly available data sets and cross-checked it with DPS records to get their numbers. And the data makes one thing clear.
We are seeing that it is plateauing. There's no argument there. We're not seeing the spike that we did this time last year.
So far in 2022, homicide filings stand at 285. If the numbers stay below 473 the next 3 months, Harris County could see its first decline in murders since 2018.
Month by month, unfortunately, those numbers will continue to grow. But yes, we are seeing crime change. The landscape has changed a little bit.
The same goes for aggravated assaults. So far this year, there's been 3,046. If totals stay below 5,497 by January, it'll be the first decline in more than 7 years. Of note, Crime Stopper says, are human trafficking cases. Totals this year have already surpassed 2021, and felon in possession of a weapon cases have doubled since 2018 and could still exceed 2021 numbers.
We don't know what could happen in the next several months.
The site also breaks down who is and isn't getting a bond and for how much, as well as what's happening to those cases as they make their way through the justice system. Houstonians stepped up to help neighbors in Jackson, Mississippi, where there's little to no running water. The city hosted a water donation drive on Friday. Volunteers made up of city workers, local nonprofits, churches, even the mayor himself helped collect the donations. Mayor Turner said he was happy to pay it forward, especially since Jackson came to our aid during Harvey.
They are not alone. I simply want to thank all Houstonians for caring, for being willing to share some of what they have with somebody else.
Donations filled 2 trucks, which will head to Jackson this weekend. If you're looking for more information about how to donate, we've got it in this article on KHOU.com. How many times have you heard Houston's built to flood? Sure, but not all drainage is created equal. Investigative reporter Jeremy Rogalski looked at the high water hotspots in our area.
It doesn't take a hurricane to create havoc on Willow Bend Boulevard.
A light rain causes it to back up, and there's no reason it should be backing up.
The water backups makes traffic back up, and that
makes it dangerous because people do crazy things. We've had people drive through our yards to try and escape the water.
Their Westbury neighborhood in southwest Houston is one of the top hotspots for drainage and flooding complaints. 26 requests to the city's 311 helpline this year. Another hotspot with 27 complaints this year, the Sunnyside neighborhood on the city's south side. This is what it's looked like outside Harold Morning's home. Stormwater rising just shy of his front door.
The drainage is not flowing. The ditches are not flowing.
Joanna Clark is with Houston Public Works.
It's a very old drainage system that has been there for decades. The capacity is not there.
She says the city has designed a drainage reconstruction plan for Sunnyside, but federal funding for the $111 million project hasn't come in. And the most complaints about drainage come from the Cottage Grove neighborhood, just northeast of Memorial Park, with 41 311 calls so far this year. Clark says the biggest problem here, overgrown weeds obstructing water flow. And she says keeping roadside ditches mowed and cleared is the homeowner's responsibility under city code.
We have over 2,400 miles of roadside ditches citywide. We must count on the community to do that part.
And back where we started in the Westbury neighborhood, the city says there are a few projects in the works to upsize some of the curbside inlets and underground pipes to improve water flow. Clark's message to homeowners isn't an easy one. Patience.
What I tell them is, well, I know they don't want to hear it, but we need to be patient. There are already projects coming in place.
Hope that helped you catch up on this past week. Now you're ready for the next one. Remember, you can tune into KHOU 11 on air, online via KHOU.com and YouTube, as well as by using our KHOU 11 Plus app on Roku and Fire TV. Have a great week.